Here's the thing. Buzzwords are powerful ideas made hollow by overuse. What phrase makes you roll your eyes? New normal, paradigm shift, circle back? What about our old favorite, synergy? You can't walk into a boardroom, attend a conference, or scroll through LinkedIn without hearing a mix of buzzwords tossed around like confetti at a corporate wedding. So why do we keep using them long after they become meaningless cliches? Well, buzzwords don't start as fluff. Most start with something real, a genuine shift in how we think about business or how business operates. But as with anything overused and removed from the original context, they lose meaning. Take synergy, for example. The concept of synergy came from biology and physics, referring to the idea that the combined effects of different elements working together could be greater than the sum of their parts. Applied to business, it was supposed to mean that teams or departments working collaboratively could achieve more together than they could individually. This was an important idea in the 80s and the 90s as a wave of mergers and acquisitions swept the world. Synergy became the go-to rationale for why buying up companies would make both parties more efficient and profitable, because nothing says synergy like a clash of corporate cultures. But like many things in business, it quickly became a catch-all phrase. Suddenly, synergy was everywhere. But it stopped meaning anything specific. It became an excuse rather than a strategy, slapped on PowerPoint slides to justify everything from mandatory fun team building exercises to questionable business deals. And so synergy became a joke, not because it wasn't a good idea, but because it had become hollow. You could slap it on a bad idea and voila, now it's a synergy problem, not a poor planning problem. Buzzwords generally follow a predictable pattern. They start as fresh and exciting ideas, new ways of understanding the changing landscape of business. They catch on because they offer clarity in complex times. Take disruption. Disruption originally described something specific, the way companies like Uber, Netflix, and Airbnb shook up entire industries by introducing radically different business models. Disruption is real. These companies changed the rules of the game, and traditional businesses had to adapt or get left behind. But just like synergy, the term quickly spread beyond its useful boundaries. Suddenly, every company, regardless of its size or its market, was talking about disrupting their industry, despite doing nothing more than selling slightly different versions of the same product. Selling socks, disrupting footwear. Opening a coffee shop, disrupting the latte. Launching a consulting firm, well, how about we disrupt disruption itself? Disruption no longer meant radical change, and so it became hollow. It's a predictable cycle. A new term captures the imagination and everyone jumps on. The idea gets stretched and watered down until eventually the word loses its meaning and we move on to the next one. The problem with buzzwords isn't just that they become annoying or cliche. The real danger is they start to replace clear thinking. Take the new normal. This one had a legitimate reason to exist. After all, the pandemic forced massive changes to the way we work and the way that we live. But before long, it was slapped on everything to avoid dealing with it. Remote work, the new normal. Supply chain disruptions, the new normal. Running out of oat milk at your local cafe. You guessed it, the new normal. It didn't take long for the new normal to become just another way of saying things are different now and we're not sure what to do about it. And once a term like synergy, disruption, or new normal becomes overused, it stops meaning anything concrete. Instead of explaining exactly what we mean, whether it's cross-departmental collaboration or disrupting a long-established industry, we use the buzzword as a shortcut. It allows us to sound like we're saying something important without actually saying much of anything at all. With this illusion of clarity, we obscure the details, and details matter. What are we circling back to? When is later? Who even started this conversation? It's not enough to say we need to be more agile. What does that mean for your team? Your product, your customer, what actions will you take? When we rely on buzzwords, we risk overlooking or oversimplifying the real work that needs to be done. Buzzwords don't die easily. They hang on far longer than they should because people are afraid to admit that the emperor has no clothes. After all, if you're the CEO who introduced synergy into your corporate vocabulary, no matter how legitimately, it's hard to walk it back once everyone started using it. But eventually the jig is up. Buzzwords fall out of favor when people stop believing in them. It usually starts with a backlash, articles, blog posts, LinkedIn rants, mocking the overuse of terms, like disruption or new normal. And once the ridicule begins, the word is officially on the way out. And those who remember the original meaning become, let's call them language hipsters. I used that phrase before it was cool. But by this time, it's already lost credibility, and a new buzzword is waiting in the wings, ready to start the cycle all over again. But here's the thing. Buzzwords are inevitable. We're always going to need a new language to describe new concepts, and some of those new terms will catch on. But we need to be aware of how quickly these words can lose their meaning. So instead of relying on the latest buzzword, focus on being specific about what you actually mean. If you're talking about collaboration, say collaboration. If you're trying to innovate, explain exactly how you're going to do it. And maybe, just maybe, we can have fewer meetings where someone says, let's circle back on this, because even your PowerPoint slides are rolling their eyes at this point. So be clear in what you're trying to say. Buzzwords can be effective shorthand, but if we're not careful, we'll be stuck in an endless cycle of meaningless jargon, saying a lot, but meaning nothing.